Basically, I work for an organisation called Resource Futures, and we're a sustainability organisation. We're based in Bristol. We're employee-owned. We're non-for-profit, profit-sharing, and there's about 30 of us. And we work on lots of elements around waste. Okay, so you've got your traditional things around data and around waste composition analysis and things like this. But what we do especially is around education and behaviour change. And that's what I want to talk about today. So why would we engage communities on waste? Well, I mean, we've got local authorities and they give you bins and they're nicely separated out and we can do all these things. There's instructions and there's people with leaflets coming around through. Well, doesn't that work? Well, no, it doesn't, does it? It doesn't really work in the way we want it to do. So, you know, what's the answers? Well, I mean, there's lots of reasons for working with communities, okay, on waste issues and carbon reduction. But the reason is, really, I make waste, you make waste. The people who make waste, surely they have to be part of the solution, right? Okay? I mean, it's about our consumption habits all the way through that dictate the amount of waste. Whether we're talking about physical waste or whether we're talking about energy, it's about our consumption habits. Okay, so it means, for me, it means it's quite reasonable to think that people are part of the solution as well as the problem. So, where did this project come from? So, we were thinking, this is right back in the 90s. I've been working for Resource Futures for about 10 years now on this project. Back in the 90s, we were thinking, well, there's no curbside collections, there's no ways really of looking at waste, and so a lot of community recycling initiatives came up. And the project that I work on, the Community Action Group project, we came from one of those back in the time when we were working with a local authority to say, well, why don't we explore a little bit about curbside collections, and we explore a little bit about behaviour change and how we can get people to change their attitudes to waste and start thinking more about how they affect the waste streams. So actually our project's now been funded since 2001 through local government money. Okay? We are working in partnerships with the local authority, but the most important thing, and I've put this in red here, we remain apolitical and autonomous. On any of our work, even though we're funded by local government, there is not one mention of Oxfordshire County Council or any of the districts. Okay, that's really, really super important, because if you go in as a community worker, which I am, and go into a local community centre, emblazoned Oxfordshire County Council on the front, I'm going to get, why didn't you pick up my bloody bin on Wednesday? That's what I'm going to get. I'm not going to have a conversation as a person to a person. Okay, and that's what you need to do. And Oxfordshire understand that, and that's been really the key to this project. Over the years, we've been asked to present this project to many local authorities around the country. All want to follow suit in what we're doing. Quite often, people aren't able to do it because they need to find some money to do it, and we all know there's not very much money in local government anymore. But some say, great idea, let's do it ourselves. All fail, because they can't make that break between going out there as local authority and going out there as someone who is a concerned resident or as somebody who wants to go in there and help people as a person. So that's super important. I'm remaining apolitical because governments come and go. I wish would go a little bit quicker, but there we go. I'm not saying who. But there's lots of opportunities for people to learn from each other, and it's about living together in communities and working with each other and learning. That is the important point. Okay, and it's we said there, utilise what's already there. Don't reinvent the wheel. Okay, there's lots of people out there doing things. It's a point of consolidation and bringing people together. So, how do we do this? So what I offer are community groups that work with us. Obviously, what we provide is free, but we also offer funding for groups. So not only funding, I have a small amount of money that we can give to groups to help them, but we have expertise in finding funding. So we'll help put in that application to Awards for All, or we'll help go for that big lottery fund grant. So that's the kind of expertise that we have. But also we provide insurance, public liability insurance, so when people want to run events or activities, they can come and they haven't got to worry about it. So we'll give them training and risk assessments. Really boring, but really, really necessary when you're getting insurance. Okay, so we also have a website, provide website support for them. We provide training if you want to know how to do public speaking or how to electrical test or how to avoid burnout, things like this. This is the kind of training we do in-house. But not only that, there's lots of skills in the network that we say, hey, does anybody know how to work with faith groups? Yeah, great, okay, great. Would you mind running a workshop for these people? Great, so we do that. And so it's all about sharing the skills. Okay, so communications, this is a big part of what we do. We have a newsletter which you can sign up for, which is called The Key, which is a roundup of all the activities in Oxfordshire, but also nationally and internationally, with jobs and funding and all the events that are going on there. That goes to around 3,000 direct recipients, okay? And that's used by the BBC for their sustainability work and for the BBC TV and news in Oxfordshire. So please, if you want to find out what we're doing, sign up for that. It's really important that we communicate the message well. So this is where we are at the moment. So we have 67 community groups in the county. We're now the largest network of its kind in the UK, and as far as I can find, anywhere else. Okay, we're a localised network. Okay, so we're not like transition towns because they're all over the place. This is very specific to Oxfordshire. 67 groups running over 1,700 events per year, attended by over 80,000 people, and we know that because we count them in. If you're really bored, don't count the dots because I've missed about 20 off there. Didn't have time to do it. This is what we call our theory of change. This is how we do it. So we start with engaged people. So that might be people around in this room saying they want to do something. They want to act on waste and reduce waste, prevent waste. So at the first point, we'll talk to them. We'll give them ideas. And then the next part is signposting. So we may say, hey, you don't want to talk to us. You want to talk to this group in Gloucester because they're doing what you're doing and you can learn from them. Then we'll be looking at if they say, okay, well, we want to form a group. How do we do that? So we'll give them help and expertise in forming that group, becoming constituted, etc. Sharing skills. I just said that before. How do you share skills amongst the people within the network? So we'll help facilitate that process and then offer practical support. And that practical support might be me coming in and help chairing a meeting or resolving that conflict in the group. Or it may be that this is equipment, or maybe it's finance, or maybe it's insurance, okay, that kind of thing. Then we have public engagement. How do we engage with the people? How do we get our messages out there so that people can see them? So it's not just a group of people in a room. You're actually speaking to your wider community. Okay? Then there's network growth. It's about building more and more networks, more and more people, making those links, bringing them together. Okay? And then how does that network feed back to what could be seen to be us, if you imagine, at the centre of a bike wheel? And there's all these groups at the end of the spokes. How do they affect what we're doing? So we have a network forum made up of people from the network who come in to help us to make those decisions. So signposting, I said this is really important. There's a local group that we work with called the Low Carbon Hub, which I think Jonathan knows very well. And what they do is they are community energy experts. So they came from voluntary background, set up an organisation which installs, well, they do powering up and powering down. So powering up, installing renewables, community renewables, and powering down, helping people to reduce their energy consumption. And they've got a great model where the money that they generate comes back into the loop and can then feed other community projects. So it's really good. They've just launched a share offer at the moment, 2016 share offer. So do look them up because they're a fantastic organisation. And why I've put them on here is the fact that they know an awful lot more about community energy than I can ever know because I've only got a very small brain. What we do is we're CAG at the bottom. We're like the foundation. So we're covering all bases. We're developing the communities and bringing them up together. If someone says we run a community energy project, we say, you want to speak to the Low Carbon Hub, and we'll make that leap for them so they haven't got to then spend the time finding the right people. I haven't put anything out of waste because obviously we get them to come to us, or obviously you know me. So just how does that look on the ground? We have something called a 6-stage model. It sounds very formal here. This isn't how we work when we talk to people, but this is how we sort of see a development of a community group. So the first stage is number 1. So someone may come along and say, we've got this idea that we're all driving our kids to school and maybe we don't need to do that. So what can we do about it? So getting that idea around. Level 2, if we go in public, so that might be when they run the first event. So it may be a swap shop. It may be the first thing that they go out and do as a group in front of the general public. Okay? Stage 3 is enthusiastic action. Okay? This is where a group is formed and they're doing lots of things. And they're out there, maybe it's doing 3 events a year, maybe it's doing 100 events a year. It doesn't matter. The group is there steady and going forward. So what we're trying to do now, in order to make sure this is sustainable, is move people to 4, 5, and 6. So 4 and 5 is looking at a flagship project. So it may be community energy, but it may be a reuse centre. It may be looking to set up an organisation to take commercial waste out of the stream, okay, something like a scrap store or something like that. So these aren't linear, because sometimes you have an idea and then you say, let's find the funding, but sometimes the funding rears its head and you go, ooh, I wonder what we could do with that, okay, to get some kind of financially sustainable project. Okay, how does that look around waste prevention and circular economy? Well, so number one, it might be around something that's happening to you that's not that you're reacting to. So quite often local authorities offer Christmas tree shredding. And that might be the first time that someone scratches their head and says, bloody hell, we have loads of Christmas trees. I wonder what happens to all of them. Oh, gosh, waste. And then start having that conversation with themselves and their friends. The next stage, number two, I said that's when they're sort of getting themselves together. It might be a swap shop. Normally when groups come to us, we always get them to start, even if they're wanting to work on energy, normally on a waste project when they're first starting, because waste is tangible. You can see it. You can touch it. You can see. You can weigh things in and say how much is left at the end. So you actually see the effect you're having. It's a very, very tangible thing to do. And of course, when you get to enthusiastic action, you're thinking, what other ways can we do? So we've got master composters, refill stations, love food, hate waste, virtual tool sheds. Not everybody needs to use a lawnmower at the same time, do they? So why not share it? That kind of thing. Share cropping. So, people have got apple trees in their back garden. Do you eat all those apples? Probably not. Great to share them, wouldn't it? Rather than just throwing in with the compost. Community fridges, food surplus cafes, till you get to a point where now you're looking at something bigger, so maybe a reuse centre or a repair cooperative. So, Mr. Green, this is a project that a couple of us started, as often do, on the back of a beer mat in a pub, thinking, let's set up some kind of reuse centre. So we've been going for about 3 years. These are some of the figures around us at the moment. And one of the things that we discovered when setting up this, one was it's a lot harder than you really thought at first, but secondly, that it's not just about reducing waste, it's about social skills. We suddenly realised after about a year into the project that we turned into more of a community centre than we did a reuse centre. Lots of people come in because people volunteer for different reasons. It's not just because they want to make a difference in terms of sustainability. Sometimes it's because they just want to be around other people. Okay, and they want to learn new skills, and that's really important to understand. Another project that we work on is it's called Dinner Time, and this was around food waste. So it's not just about food waste in terms of reducing food waste, but it's about cooking skills. So we get people to come along and they book into it like they would a restaurant, and they bring things in the back of the fridge that they've never seen before, or they haven't seen for a long time. And it could be a tub of black sesame seeds because Jota Martelengi said you should use them because the white ones aren't quite as good. And then you don't know what to do with them. I've got these black sesame seeds, what do I do with them? So anyway, you bring your stuff along, and then there's cooking stations. And you say, right, we've got 7 oranges, a pear, and these black sesame seeds. Go. And so you've got to cook, and then you cook a meal together with food surplus, and you learn cooking skills at the same time, and you're meeting people, okay? And we take Dinner Time on tour as well, so we'll go around, and we're schools use us quite a lot. And they'll come in and do stuff with the kids and the parents. And from that, we've spurned the Oxford Food Surplus Cafe, which now happens once a month. And we get surplus food, and we bring it in. We have a team of volunteers. We cook, and then it's a pay-as-you-feel cafe. Now, we're doing this every month, once a month in East Oxford, and once a month in an area of where it's at risk of food poverty. Okay, and we're using the surplus food. So it's the stuff that even the food bank can't get rid of. Okay, so we take that in, we cook the food, and we're doing like 350 meals a time. And all the money we make from that goes to local environmental and social justice charities. But every group is different. We're talking about waste. We've got people who are involved in community-supported agriculture. We've got people involved in Westmill. Westmill Wind Farm was the first community-owned wind farm in the UK. They work with us, Broken Spoke Bike Cooperative, and that's the whole point. It's about, no one has one particular trigger. Okay? It's about how we all engage with the world around us and what we waste. It's about wasting, and wasting is not just about physical waste. It's about energy. It's about carbon. So, how does it link to Oxfordshire County Council? Why do they fund us? Anybody remember the big society? If you blinked, you might have missed it, I think, probably. Oxfordshire have been funding us since 2001, okay? They've got to be seeing some kind of benefit from this. Is it any kind of... do you think it's anything to do with the fact there's a community network that we're bucking the trend in terms of recycling rates? Everybody else's recycling rates are going down, Oxfordshire going up. Head of Waste Management, he says it's not coincidence, okay? So it's about linking communities and the local authorities together. It's about getting messages out in an equitable way. It's about doing it, reaching the parts that local authorities can't reach. I can get a message about what they need to do in terms of their waste much better than they can get it out there. Fact, because I'm working with local communities. So what does it look like on the ground? Recycle for Oxfordshire. Okay, they want to work on bulky waste. Well, we've got Mr. Green. They want to work on reuse. We've got Broken Spoke Bike Co-op. They want to work on commercial industrial. We've got a scrap store, nappy waste, Mr. Baby store. So what we're doing, everything in their targets within Recycle for Oxfordshire and their waste strategy, we're managing to hit through community. Okay, and that's really powerful. And what they have realised now is it's not just about waste. It's about carbon. And when you've got carbon, you've got energy, education, economy, jobs. Okay, so it's all linked. This isn't just one individual thing. Okay, but how effective is it? Well, we think it's very effective, and we can prove it because we've had to. Because a few years ago, we had our funding withdrawn. And so it was quite an interesting process, actually, because we've got a very large campaigning network. So I remember waking up in the morning and reading this email on my phone and thinking, oh, bugger. And I sort of sent an email out to people and said, I think our funding might be being pulled. Go. And it just went poof, off. And the university waded in, and the districts waded in, and I went and spoke to the cabinet members, and we developed, fortunately, the year before, a community impact modelling tool. So it's a tool that community groups can use to monitor and evaluate their effectiveness. Okay, it's not just because we need to know the figures, but also if you're spending your time to reduce waste or reduce carbon, you want to know if it's working or not. So we developed a model that you can use and put in your information, and it will tell you how effective it is in terms of carbon. Fortunately, because it will also tell us the cost savings to the local authority and the cost savings to the individuals. So I walked into that meeting with the facts and figures that they also helped to fund and said, we're not a charity. For every £1 you give us, we bring back £11 into the local county. And they went, oh, right, okay, have the funding back. So they reinstated the funding. We've just signed a 3-year contract with Oxfordshire to continue. I hope it will still have it in a few years. I doubt it, but we'll see. We'll see. So anyway, I'm going to shoot through this bit very quickly. We've now developed a new tool which is free to use. So if there are community groups or local authorities in the room, if you would like to use this tool, then please come and see me. This is essentially a tool that you can use on your handheld device whenever you're running an event. It could be a local authority event as well. It will tell you what you need to find out how many people turn up, how much waste was diverted, etc., etc., etc. And then it will tell you how much carbon you've saved. It will also tell you how much money you've saved the local authority. It will tell you how much money you've saved to the people turning up to that event, for example, if you were doing thermal imaging or etc. And it will give you all of these outputs. Okay? So if you would like to see, this is just about to be launched very soon. So, bang for buck, financial benefits. So our project costs about £90,000 a year. Okay, 2 full-time employees. We brought in £520,000 of external funding last year. Okay, publicity, we've measured that using one of the normal metrics, around £40,000, and over £300,000 worth of volunteer hours have gone in. That's before you get to the waste and carbon savings. So I just wanted to leave you with the idea that community action, is it worth it? Well, I would say it's definitely not a waste of time, money, or resources. Thanks very much.